Hey, before we get into the episode, I just want to tell you about my free astrology newsletter called the Starzologer. It comes out every Sunday. It's a lot of interest for astrologers. I explore cosmic currents moving through the ever-changing skies. Most weeks I explore what's coming up in the week and also share some astrology sticky bits and throw in some ideas about buzzing around. You also get stretched with my Extend Yourself sections. So this newsletter is for aspiring astrologers or anyone who's trying to up their astrological knowledge. It's totally free and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here.
So nice to have you with me once more. So in this time, we're continuing our little series we're doing on the US election for 2024.
Yes.
We have previously done the US birth chart, and now we're going to be looking at one of the candidates that's running for this election.
Yes.
And that, because we do know there has been some juggling around and people stepping back and
yes,
all sorts going on.
We thought we would be doing Trump and Biden, and of course Biden dropped out recently, so we will be doing Kamala Harris's chart next time.
Yes.
Not next time, but in a few weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And tonight we're going to be doing Trump's chart. Yeah.
Donald J. Trump.
So let me just give the details of this actual chart. So we know exactly when it is, so that anyone who doesn't know can cast the chart and follow along.
Yeah.
So he was born at 10:54 a.m. on June the 14th, 1946, in Queens, New York, USA.
Yes.
And we do understand this is AA rated, so it's a perfect birth time.
Absolutely, and it says even on the data source, birth chart / birth certificate, or rather birth certificate in hand.
Birth certificate in hand, AA, yes.
Yeah, AA rating. So it is official.
So this is it, because he's got a very interesting ascendant, which is Leo at 29 degrees 55 minutes.
Yeah.
So for anyone who knows anything, this means that if he was born 1 minute later, it wouldn't be Leo, it would be Virgo.
Yeah, and it's a pretty specific time, 10:54.
Yes, they wrote that down carefully.
Yeah.
So we're quite happy with the birth time. Because I know when I started casting the chart and looking at it, because I don't really know that much about it, I thought, let's double check that. And that's what we came up with. Yeah. So interesting.
It's funny, though. I mean, if you know anything about ascendants, and if that were all you had to go on was just looking at him, my God, I mean, he screams Leo rising.
I know,
There's
right?
really no way he's Virgo rising.
No.
So in our episode about cusps, maybe we'll bring this up again and be like, yeah, there's no cusps.
There's no. You know, sometimes this is because each sign next to each other is entirely different to the one next to it.
Yeah.
And we can clearly say that just by looking at him, which is what the ascendant is, that It does show Leo rising. This is particularly in the haircut for a start, and the red ties and the flamboyance of it all.
Yeah,
right.
He was called the P.T. Barnum of finance.
Oh,
that was one of many nicknames that he's had.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what? Just for our listeners, what we're going to be trying to do this time is actually work through the astrology rather than our personal opinion about politics.
100%. And we are also, as most of our listeners will know, we're based in Canada. We're in Vancouver. We don't have a dog in the race, so to speak.
Yeah.
We have many American family members, friends, audience members, and we obviously follow American politics because it's really impossible to avoid it,
right?
Even in Canada. And it's a big, it's an important election. But as far as our opinions, we're going to try to keep it just to the astrology, because there's no point. There's no point in saying. And also, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Exactly.
The world will go on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a bit of a closer look at his chart and just bring out some kind of highlights and talk about how we see this being reflected.
For sure.
Okay, so let's just have a look at this chart, how we would normally if we were just going to go and look at a breakdown of somebody's chart. And we would go with the broad strokes to find the balances.
Yeah.
So In this case, we would look at the polarities and the elements and the modes. So for the so let me just clear it up. So with the element count, he's got 1 in fire, 0 in earth, 2 in air, and 4 in water. So this is making water a prominent element in his chart. And because of the water and the lack of earth, that still makes it that the polarity is balanced, because you've got 3 in the active and 4 then in the passive.
Yeah.
But water is still a high profile element here. And then if we look at the modes, we've got cardinal, he's got 4, fixed is 2, fixed is 1, and mutable is 2. So this makes actually cardinal prominent as well. So that's strong as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we're not counting the ascendant, the MC nodes, in case anyone else is kind of playing along and they're going, what about the North Node? We're just talking about planets.
And if you click the link below, you can go through to the blog post with the image on of where we've done the calculation here. So I'm only counting the 7 visible planets, which is how I do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've ended up with. So we're not counting the outers, the ascendant, blah, blah, anything else, all the other things. We're going for a core count, if you will.
Right.
And that's what we got. So what we have already is 2 prominent things. We've got cardinal, which is, the word is really leadership.
Yeah.
And getting things done, let's face it. And water, which is an emotional response to things. So that is an interesting way to...
That is true. That is really interesting. And getting things done, but also getting things started. The cardinal is very much about getting things...
Absolutely. Initiating change.
Yes,
that's
initiating change. Exactly.
Yeah. So this is a guy who's going to likely be doing that. And of course, Leo rising as well is quite prominent there. Mm-hmm. But that is the balances. If we then go on to look at the ascendant and the ascendant complex, so it's Leo rising, therefore the sun is the chart ruler. Mm. That's always a great thing, I think, she said, as Leo rising herself.
Yes.
But and then, of course, the sun there is in Gemini. But there's nothing in the first house. Right. And Leo's right at the tail end, so it's in that anaretic degree. But Mars is conjoined the ascendant, but in the 12th house.
Right, which is super interesting for someone who has political aspirations.
Yeah.
We know from our previous episode when we talked about the U.S. chart how important Mars is. And Mars in Leo is one of those overly... It was one of the markers that was statistically improbable, like incredibly unlikely that many people. But there you go, Mars in Leo.
Yeah. So this is it. So of course that's all the action and the drumming, but that's all behind the scenes. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here.
Yes.
That's pushing him forward. So.
Right, and there we get into a little family history, which we're going to, mostly stick to the non-biographical and the astrological, but we can't help but bring in a few things that we know about the man, which is that his father was an incredibly powerful real estate developer in New York,
really?
Accused of having racially unequal housing and being kind of like a... yeah, exactly. So there was that whole controversy. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of controversy in sort of New York history, like not like mafia kind of thing, but just business developer sort of shenanigans and whatnot.
Okay.
There's a history of like 4,000 lawsuits or something that he's been involved with, which is either being sued or suing somebody.
The father or Trump now?
Trump himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sort of inherting that from the father, because that was a very sort of family business. His first job was working for his father's development company, and then renaming it and taking on the thing. And he's, famously names a lot of businesses after himself. So there's Trump University, there's Trump Steaks, there's
Trump Hotel.
The Trump Hotel, yes, exactly. Yeah. Trump Tower, all those things.
Trump Towers, yes. That was what it was in Vancouver. I believe the name's changed now.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So that would be the ascendant, the Leo thing pushing through there. Yeah. And then, of course, we want to then look at you would then go to the chart ruler, which in this case is the sun. So that would be the next one. So we'll look at the sun. Yeah. So it's and here's the sun in Gemini in the 10th house.
In the 10th house, right.
And it's a good place for a politician.
Oh my God, yeah. Totally.
And it's up there with the North Node. And so it's...
Yeah, conjunct the North Node and conjunct Uranus. So there's that there's that disruptive energy.
Yes,
There's
the hooligan, the rebel, and of course that Uranus is most elevated, so it's actually very prominently placed.
Yeah, the one president who had no political experience before being elected.
Yes, well, this is it, and he hasn't come. As I end up, because I have to say I'm not very much into politics, but I understand that he has come in as a businessman, and he had his offices already in New York or wherever they were, whereas other politicians have to create this place on the back of whatever the votes they got. But he was already established.
Yeah.
In that political area and of course fame as well is 10th house.
Well, exactly.
He was on TV right beforehand anyway.
Yeah, he had the Apprentice for 10 years. He had that from 2004 through 2015. That was his primary source of income, actually.
Really?
Because he had some failed businesses in the late 90s, resulting in a massive debt consolidation and bankruptcy in, I think, 2000-ish, 2001, something like that. And so then when he became the host of The Apprentice, he kind of, in a way, was like playing an exaggerated character of himself. All reality shows are sort of an exaggerated thing, but he put himself forward as the ultimate businessman, right? And it's kind of like that name recognition. Whereas, if you are a politician who's just scratching and clawing your way up in the ranks of trying to get things done as an actual politician, you have, you don't have that fame to.
No.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting how it's opened the door to not this election per se, but, over the last 5 or so years, or I guess almost 10 years now since he started being in the political realm, all kinds of actors have come out of the woodwork. The Rock for a while was being hoisted up on the, thing of The Rock for president.
Right.
Just hilarious, because who even knows what his politics are?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So this is the thing. So we've got this very strongly placed sun with the North Node. So destiny is playing a part there for sure. Yeah. The destiny to carve a name out for yourself regardless. And Uranus is there. Yeah. And not everyone's going to like it.
No, exactly.
But that won't stop him.
No, and neither would the lawsuits, the bankruptcies, the failed businesses. None of that stops this juggernaut of destined fame and being thought of as a billionaire, whether he was or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Playing himself as this the monopoly guy with the monocle for the modern era. Yeah.
So, it's a very strong sun there. It's got a couple of trines into Jupiter, which is just bringing more good stuff.
Totally.
More opportunities, more advantageous things. Jupiter's in the second house. I mean, it really... So you've got a lot of support there. And then we get to the sun's opposition to the moon.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So his moon then is in Sagittarius, and he was actually born on a lunar eclipse day.
Yeah.
So he's got this lunar eclipse baked into his chart, and had he been born actually 3 hours later, it would be exactly on the eclipse, but he is born on eclipse day. So it's lunar eclipse, South Node, Sagittarius.
Yeah.
So again, and this is fourth house, so he's leaning on his family and his cultural background and his financial background and tapping into his ancestral network, if you will.
Sure.
But because it's Sagittarius, it's a lot here, and we're here, there, and we're everywhere.
Yeah.
And still, we know he brings his family into what he's doing at the moment, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So lunar eclipses tend to show where the sun tends to dominate lunar eclipses because we can't see the actual moon at the lunar eclipse.
Right.
So even though it's called a lunar eclipse, the sun becomes quite prominent at that point. And we can see in this case that of that opposition, I would say the sun is definitely more prominent than that moon down there in the fourth house in Sagittarius. But the moon is in its own house, so it's called accidental dignity. So all of these backgrounds and family and kids he knew when he was a kid and people like that he will tap into to feed up to that.
And we always hear about the dad. We never hear about, Trump's mom.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. So the other thing I'd want to say about the moon and just the interesting dynamic of a moon opposite the sun, especially in this case where the sun is so dominant in the chart, is that he has had 3 different spouses, children. He's got 5 children, and famously, he has been accused of sexual assault, sexual misconduct, being a misogynist. There was that huge women's protest when he was elected, with women wearing the pink knitted hats and all that. So his relationship with women, in quotes, just as a block, has been contentious to say the least. So I see that as a kind of an interesting dynamic, with that moon being opposite the sun, and that kind of that moon isolated
in shadow.
From it's in shadow, exactly. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah. So that's there. We've had a look at the two main luminaries there, and I also just want to say that moon is now sextile Jupiter as well in the second house, like once more supporting the financial fortitude, if you will, of he will rise again, even though he's been broke. He's probably never been as broke as you and I.
Right?
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So the first thing that you would actually notice as a non-astrologer, even looking at this chart, is the extremely lopsided nature of this, of where all the planets are.
Yes.
Literally all the planets are located between Gemini and the middle to late, numbers of Gemini. What is that word?
Yes.
Yeah. And to Libra. So I don't know if that's a bowl, or is that because Libra and Gemini aren't trine, but they're...
No, we see because the moon's that outlier there. Technically, it's not a bowl because Uranus is at 17. No.
Okay, no. It's very lopsided. Is all.
It really is. If it was going to be a bucket, the moon would be the handle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not technically...
It could technically be a bucket at a stretch, but the moon really needs to be opposing one of the planets in.
Yeah.
So honestly, I would just put this as, if anything, a locomotion.
Right.
With the Uranus as the cutting planet, leading the charge.
There we go.
Where, and this is a planet that is well placed. This Uranus, it's the hooligan, it's the
disruptor.
The disruptor.
Yeah.
Which is what he's doing, and
totally.
Or that's what we're saying. I mean, maybe in his own mind he's organized.
No. That's actually. I mean, he puts himself forward as the champion of the
the disruptor.
What is that word? Yeah,
I don't know.
Gosh.
So this makes Uranus also that morning planet rising ahead, suggesting vocation as well, and of course it's still in the 10th house.
Yeah.
So, and it's all in Gemini. So this is where what he says, it annoys people, doesn't it?
It annoys the hell out of people. And people are constantly saying, oh, he's lied about this, he's lied about that. Well, obviously all politicians lie, but the fact-checking is out of control when it comes to Trump. He was booted off of Twitter, which is now being renamed X, and he was famously reinstated by Elon Musk after Elon Musk purchased Twitter, which is now called X.
Is that right?
Yeah, so he was off of Twitter for like 2 years, I think.
Okay.
I think it was a good 2 years. He was kicked off for misstating the truth, misstating facts.
Gemini.
Exactly. And he then went and, kind of slandered all of the Twitter. He was actually kicked off of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, I believe. And just recently the ban lapsed, so he's back on Facebook, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
He's created his own social network called, I think it's the Truth Network or Truth something. So Truth Social, I think it's called, which failed to sort of really get that much traction. But now that he's back on X, I guess he doesn't really need it. And,
okay, interesting.
Yeah, but that Gemini thing, that Gemini duality, and that alternative facts, which was a phrase that was coined by his former, I believe, press secretary. And
so even though, let's just be fair here, even though we know that this is a politician and he's put out questionable stuff, anyone with these Gemini placements are going to be saying things, and you're thinking, really?
Is it true? Yeah.
But perhaps in their own mind, what they're trying to put over is correct.
It's what Jon Stewart used to call truthiness. Or maybe it was Stephen Colbert. Either way, it's truthiness.
Truthiness.
It feels true, even if it's not true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fake news comes from these kind of words.
The same. Yeah.
But Gemini can sometimes, even when they're talking, even a regular Gemini is going to tell you things you think, really? Is that what he said? But last week he said this.
Yeah.
But in their mind,
Yeah.
It's all making sense. And this is unfortunate that he's got this.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny because it's crept into the lexicon, just the fact that even not being politically minded at all, as you say, you're throwing fake news. It's become like, I don't even know if that's in the dictionary now, but I'm sure it is because they pick these things up very quickly now. All these words that we kind of like pick up from social media just kind of like get sucked into the actual dictionary at this point. So fake news, alternative facts, all these things are,
Gemini
at first sort of like laughed at when they were spouted by the press secretary or even by him on Twitter. But now it's like, oh no, everyone says fake news. Like, it's a thing, it's real.
It's amazing.
A real fake thing.
It's amazing, yeah. So if we then kind of moved on and looked at some of the other highlights, if you will, of this chart. So going back to his second house, so he's got Neptune, Chiron, and Jupiter. Yeah. So any planets that in your second house are going to show how you handle money, where the money comes from, what you do with it, and what you spend on, and all the rest of it. So Jupiter there is Jupiter in the second house is a great place for money keeps coming in.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming in with this and that and all bonuses and what have you. Yeah. But gosh darn, there's Neptune. And we know what that means, that there is a bit of a loss of what's happening with the money.
Yeah.
And there can be I don't want to say you get robbed, but the money disappears somehow and you don't quite put your finger on it. And that's Neptune in the second house.
Or you're dishonest about it, because that's possible too.
This is it. Or there's some illusion about how rich you really are.
Right.
Or how poor you really are, or how you are. And then on top of that, we've got Chiron, which is really a pain point. And it's really where it's your weakness. So if we're talking about finances, which we are because we're talking about him, there may be a weakness in actually his ability to, no matter how many people he's got there, to manage this money that Jupiter's providing, because the Neptune's there, and this whole combination is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And if this person came to me with their chart, I would be saying right there, you need a financial advisor and you need someone you can trust, because you have not got your finger on the pulse here, and things are disappearing and, all this sort of thing. But the money keeps coming in, but and that's really what the problem is.
Yeah.
And it's all going down in Libra, where, what do we say? Blame the other one, right? It's, I did this and I did that, but someone else has.
Yeah, and Libra, the scales, litigation, all those lawsuits, all those controversies over the taxes. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing.
How interesting is it too that the name of his villa mansion, palatial estate is Mar-a-Lago. Like, how Neptunian could that be? Like,
what does that mean?
It literally means in Spanish sea to lake, and it's his resort in Palm Beach, and it spans from the Atlantic Ocean to the Lake Worth Lagoon. Apparently, I just looked that up, but
well, there you go.
Mar-a-Lago, it means sea to lake, so very Neptunian, and
amazing.
That is his palatial gold encrusted villa.
In
Florida.
Wow. Yeah. But anyone else who was really born on this day or this week, but it's got Neptune, Chiron, or Jupiter in the second house, is going to be in the same position where money kind of keeps coming, but it's also kind of drifting away too.
Yeah.
And then you're being questioned about it.
Yeah, and if you didn't start out with millions like he did, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So that's a very strong house with 3 planets, and anyone would kill to have 3 planets in the second house, because really that would indicate 3 streams of income, and clearly he has multiple ones.
Yeah.
But if he was just, Joe Bluggs down the road, this would be 3 streams of income coming in, which is a good thing, Yeah,
for sure. He's got at least 3.
At least 3 that we know. Yeah. And then the other house, which is kind of busy, is the 11th house with 3 Cancer planets there. So this now is Mercury, Saturn, and Venus. And that Saturn conjunct Venus does represent, Venus represents women, let's face it.
I mean, he's had 3 wives.
Has he? Yeah. I remember Ivanka, but that was after that I've lost the thread.
Yeah, that's Ivana. She's the mother of Ivanka, the daughter.
Oh, sorry.
That's the beautiful daughter.
She's the shoe woman, right?
Yeah. No. Maybe.
Ivanka, she did shoes.
Yeah, I mean, she's had a bunch of fashion kind of related businesses, and then she kind of went into
But in general, when Saturn is conjoined Venus,
Yeah.
there is control issues
Yeah.
with women.
Yes.
And, or dare I say, discipline with women,
Yeah.
or struggles there's a wall between, and it's a difficult thing. It clearly, we often say, well, men don't understand women at all. I mean, I've said this myself, but this would be a good indication of that
really doesn't.
too.
Yeah.
What, some people say, I don't know how to talk to women or deal with women, or I don't understand women.
We know what he says about women. Grab them by the... Anyway.
Yeah, so there you are.
Yeah.
And there you have this conjunction there with Saturn and Venus, which is...
Yeah. And that's... Like, those are money-oriented planets, too, Saturn and Venus. And it's interesting that he has had these acrimonious divorces with his past wives, and his current wife spent a while that he was in office kind of MIA. She was just in New York, and everyone was like, where's
Melania?
Melania, yeah.
Melania,
and I think it's dismissive and reductionist to call her a trophy wife, which is, something that people say, but she's definitely a fashionable sort of icon, which is something that you want as a political wife.
Yes.
But she refused to play the part of the political wife. She did not have the garden and the charities and this whole thing. She blatantly sort of did everything she could to not present that sort of... I mean, she wouldn't even hold his hand sometimes in public, which was weird.
Or he was blocking her because that's Saturn on the...
Possibly,
so
he
saying,
might have been just like, just leave me alone. Yeah,
just go over there and I'll call you when I need you. So, so that is a tricky one. And anyone who's got Saturn conjunct Venus is going to have control issues with these sort of things. Even a woman would have you'd kind of... sort of thing.
Sure.
And of course, the other key word for Saturn is mastery. So where do we go with that one? But anyway, so that's...
well, it's interesting that... Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to... but he will also have been the only presidential candidate to run against two female opposing... Because he went up against Hillary in 2016, and now he's going up against Kamala Harris.
Is that right?
In 2024. Which is
the challenge, the Saturn conjunct of Venus. Yes. Yeah. It's like, I don't want to say a nemesis, but it's a... Yeah. Yeah, it comes around and it's there in Cancer. So... Strange. It does show, and this is 11th house stuff, so this shows your, well, of course it's your income from your businesses, which is what he's going to get anyway, but it's going to be showing how you are, of course, in groups and within the political party of the, what party is he with?
Republican.
The Republican Party. Yeah. So of that group and of that tribe, there's quite a lot of energy being expressed in there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, his industries, as you say, like hotels, real estate, reality television.
Yes.
These are not typically, real estate developing that does have a masculine kind of quality, but like casinos, hotels, this is more hospitality that's got a more...
It kind of is, right?
A little more Cancer.
It's Cancerian vibing.
Cancerian.
It's watering. It's emotional. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, finding a home away from home, sort of thing. Yeah.
And I've heard, just by the by, that as a hotel and casino magnate, or whatever you want to say, he was actually quite good. And a lot of people who wouldn't be Trump supporters in politics have said that when they ran into him in New York, just on the street, that he was an incredibly gregarious, charming Gemini with a rising person. Yeah. And this perplexed the people who would be reporting this. I remember seeing, for example, I think it was Ben Affleck. I don't want to necessarily, it was a long time ago, but he said, I ran into Donald Trump and he was super nice and charming.
Yeah, well,
he found it mystifying, like, whoa. Yeah.
Well, this is it. You've got your public persona and you've got what they write about you.
Yeah.
And we know that even as small little podcasters that we are, people can still write trash about us, and you just think, well, really? And you move on, but it's still out there.
Yeah, for sure. And people just, obviously, you never know a person until you're actually face to face with them, especially someone who has their persona as it's such a huge thing.
Yes,
it's
like
big, gigantically inflated persona that couldn't possibly be. He couldn't possibly be as any of the adjectives people say about him.
Right.
Like none of it could possibly be as extreme as what people say.
Wow.
If you actually meet him in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have had a look at Donald Trump's birth chart. It's great that it's got an excellent birth time, which is always a good thing when you're looking at astrology.
Oh, yes.
We've gone through the major factors in the chart. Of course, there's way more that one could be digging around and commenting on.
Yeah.
But if this was just a regular person who came by, this is how you would look at their chart and obviously see what's going on. Yeah, so we've had a look at Trump's chart. We're going to be looking at the chart of Kamala Harris in the forthcoming weeks. And then we're also going to be having a look in November at the actual election chart for the date of the election to give some kind of context to what we see in that chart. So this is one of the podcasts about the US election for 2024. Again, as I say, we're not going to go political on it. We're just trying to explore the astrology that comes up at these times, right? Yeah. So if you would like to, you can email us at starzology@gmail.com. You can text us as well if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify. On the very top link, you can click through there and send us your questions because we will be recording our next Q&A shortly.
Yeah.
I also encourage you to follow Arwynne, and she is
at mspink.net. That's MSPINK.
And Arwynne is talking about
myself, politics, books,
interesting things about
pop culture, movies, TVs,
and stuff that's going on that interests everybody. If you found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it. You can certainly visit our blog at starzology.com. And we do have some astrological freebies. There's a link on the very top. You can click to it for freebies where I've got some downloads and templates and what have you if you're just getting started in astrology. So we've got all that for you. And of course, we'd love you to make sure that you're getting our newsletter that goes out once a week and all about astrology and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Arwynne, I want to thank you once more for coming and joining us today. It's been lovely to have you.
Thank you so much, Alison. It's been great.
And thanks to our listeners for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.